Hi, welcome. So to give a bit of background on the GSMA Foundry, it's the home of mobile innovation, and it helps its members and industry players come together to develop real-world solutions to industry challenges, nurture new ideas, and scale proven solutions to forge our digital future. To learn more about the Foundry afterwards, pop over to the GSMA Pavilion in Hall 4, where you can try out some of the demos. Great. Well, thanks to the panel, and we'll kick off with the first question. When it comes to approaching innovation and devising solutions to real-world concerns, what are the main challenges and opportunities that you currently see and are working on? Stephen, start with you.
Yeah, so I think there's a huge challenge, of course, with AI. Unsurprising, that's the topic of the day almost. How are we solving that with the GSMA Foundry? Well, one of the things that we did is we announced the IBM GSMA Foundry partnership, and that partnership does two things. One is it enables us to educate executives on the potential for AI and where it is that AI is actually going. What are the use cases? What is the efficacy? What's the economic case? What are the leadership challenges that come with implementation of AI? Yeah, ethical concerns, governance, those types of things. And then the second thing we're doing is we're allowing all of the GSMA members to have an extended trial on the AI platform that we have, Watson X. And by doing that, of course, you proliferate the technology, not just to a few that can afford it and can afford to run their own models, but actually for everybody that wants to participate in that. And that enables us to put across the ecosystem, the telco ecosystem, a massive system of distributed innovation. So we're really excited about that.
Thanks, Stephen. Nicholas, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you, and good morning, everybody. I think, and my advice also to all entrepreneurs here, I think the challenge and also the opportunities, how to go from innovation to real business transformation. And when you navigate from innovation units, how then you go to the real business units. And once you get your first, let's say, innovation pilot, then how you transform that and work with all the business units that will help you scale those innovation activities that you are doing into real enterprise deals that you are working on. This is what we are seeing at Unmanned Life. So the GSMA Foundry is instrumental to help navigate that process. And it's very important that you understand how that process looks like in all the steps and from day one.
Thanks. Micky?
Hi, Jess. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Okay, so the challenge is that half the world are unconnected, literally half the world. Take this room, split it in half, and half the world can't speak to the other. The opportunity is, of course, to connect the unconnected and serve the underserved. And the opportunity given by the GSMA, especially the Foundry, to talk about this, to discuss this, to make this happen, is fantastic.
Thank you. Next question. How easily are you able to connect and work with like-minded innovators in the space? And what role is the GSMA Foundry playing in helping this and closing the innovation gap?
Yeah, so I think, sorry, the real issue is not really finding like-minded people. Actually, I think the beauty of the telco industry is it's a massive system of interconnected partners. It's a huge co-opetition model. So we've got no concern with really trying to find like-minded participants and people that really want to move into systems of innovation. I think it is trying to find ways to actually orchestrate that. So you need to find the plenary, the platform. You need to make sure that there is an incentive structure that makes sense for everybody, and everybody is really motivated towards the same sort of outcome. So organizing around those things is probably the difficult part of innovation, but it's not actually finding like-minded individuals. I think none of us are in any particular desire for a less tolerant world or a less harmful world or any of those things. So finding participants is the easy part.
Yeah. Micky, what are your thoughts on the role that GSMA Foundry is playing in closing this innovation gap?
I've seen the GSMA Foundry bring people together. And again, I think finding like-minded people, Stephen said, it's quite easy in the telco world because we've all got one mission. But the reality is execution is very difficult. And bringing people together to be able to execute together is where the GSMA Foundry really is winning.
Nicholas?
Well, I second that, but here we want to explain how the innovation process works. Everybody loves innovation and everybody loves technology, but how do you translate that into winning business? And so the role of the GSMA Foundry is to bring the corporate world and the startup world. And we are all enthusiasts. Oh, we want to get new business, but then you find the corporate world reality. Budgets, annual budgets, and then it's all about explaining how this works. And this is what an entrepreneur and a startup that is starting needs to also understand, that there are realities that need to happen also to make innovation happen. And I think that's very useful when you arrive with all the enthusiasm. You need to have these two worlds converge to make the innovation happen. And the change management is happening, and the enthusiasm for technology and innovation also is there. Yeah.
Thank you. So funding has been a big problem for startups the last couple of years or so. What challenges have you encountered in expanding your operations and ultimately in trying to monetize them? And how easy have you found it to access funding?
I think funding is always a problem for startups. It's never not a problem. We chose something very different. So there's 850 mobile network operators on this planet, but yet there's 3 billion people unconnected. Facebook, Google, Microsoft have all tried to connect the unconnected, serve the underserved. And up until now, they failed. Not through effort, but purely through financial reasons. So we feel that we built a sharing economy. We built an economy where every person can actually get involved in being part of a telecom network, can host infrastructure, can purchase infrastructure remotely or locally, and can become part of it, micro operators essentially. So that's our solution that's working so far, to be able to connect the unconnected, something that lots of people can get involved in, rather than one company going to raise 100 million or 150 million or 200 million like it is in the telco world. In the M&O world, that's what you have to do. It's like, okay, I've raised 80 million. What am I doing tomorrow? Okay, I'm working for the next 200 million, because you need to deploy infrastructure. But if you put the power in the people's hands, that's something very, very different. And if someone could enter into the telecommunications market, a multi-trillion-dollar annual market, all of a sudden for $5,000, $2,000, $50,000, $100,000, you have a lot more infrastructure going up. So making a new economic model that incentivizes people to put up infrastructure and allows them to earn revenue from their efforts, from their infrastructure, I think is probably the future, and we're heading that.
Thanks. Stephen, obviously IBM is a big company, but have you encountered any challenges in expanding and monetizing your operations?
I mean, I think all firms, small or large, need to prioritize, and at some point or another, you have to decide what you're willing to invest in and what you're not. But I think what is really interesting is that you're seeing all of the big players actually run funds. So IBM has a number of funds that they run, or startup funds. If you look at Nokia, they've got Nokia Growth Partners. And often the operators have got their own funds as well. So what's really interesting is that we're seeing some of those funds invest in other funds, each other's funds. Yeah, so there'll be collaborations between an OEM and a telco operator within a particular fund. So I think that's a great place for anybody that's looking for money to go to that, because they've got the operational environment to actually then do a proof of concept, but they can also access the money. So I think those are great avenues for finding money and actually then proving the case out reasonably quickly as well.
And to build on what you're saying, Stephen, I think the money is there, and what you need to do to tap into this funding available is to shape your value proposition, to put it in such a way that those who will be reading it understand it. What does it mean is that you need to make sure that the way you structure your value proposition is understood by the decision makers. And not always is the case when we are doing that in the startup world, how the business cases are built, how the I was talking before about the budget cycles, or how the business cases, as I was saying, were built, etc., etc. So I think the budgets are there, but it's all about how you package the proposal. And one piece of advice is there are many mentors or advisors in all these big companies that are part of networks that you can always be tapping. For example, in the GSMA Foundry, you can find them, but also in other networks that can be found. Yeah.
Yeah, how important do you think that those kind of networks are, especially to startups?
Massively. Massively important. It's really hard. I think you touched on it in the beginning. You said going from startup to corporate, something gets lost in the middle for most companies, and then all of a sudden they get their first 1 million seed or 2 million seed or 3 million seed, and then the transition into that corporate world and how to navigate that corporate world, you get very lost very quickly. So it's super important to have the right advisors. There's lots of people that will be your advisor, but it's super important to have the right advisors, people that have been there, seen it, and actually want to see innovation. And although the funding is available, these companies, they don't have time to listen to 100,000 different companies, but there's 100,000 different companies out there offering something that the world needs today. So it's super important to have advisors, proper advisors.
I will say, I will be very transparent. The very first documents that we were sending, I was told by our advisors, oh, I will be very transparent with you, Nicholas. Your first documents were rubbish. Yeah, and they help us to shape. They help us. Yeah, they help us shape. They help us shape these documents to make sure that they were understood and properly understood by decision makers, and then we were able to start converting little by little these innovation pilots and getting there. So that's why advice, the dialogue, and getting these two worlds working together is important to get tap into this fund.
Yeah, I think also.
The mic isn't working.
Yeah, I think also the other benefit of when I was talking earlier about you're able to go to some of the funds that are actually inside of a large telco operator or inside of an OEM. Those people actually used to probably work inside of the whichever sort of parent, grandparent organization they're working for. They can actually help you navigate the organization, who's who, where's the network lie, how would you get the idea from concept into a proof of concept and proven out over time. So again, there's a real benefit to be able to work within a larger construct, but those smaller construct can help you navigate the difficulties of organizational complexity, politics, individuals, decision-making frameworks, etc.
Do you think that besides funding and advice, there's anything else that plays into having kind of a community of like-minded people and other companies doing the same thing as you?
I think that as a founder, you need to know your mission, right? And it comes down to you first of all. It doesn't matter which advice you've got. If you don't know your own mission, eventually it's going to fall apart. But yeah, I think that like-minded people working together, collaborating is very possible. The problem is everyone's so busy, right? Everyone's so busy running. Everyone's so busy reaching their targets. Everybody's so busy to go out and raise that money. Everyone's so busy to deploy. Everyone's so busy to make the next AI platform or the next quantum encryption or whatever it is. So that's where the major issue comes. So actually, when you talk about finding like-minded people, you've really got to find like-minded people for it to work. Because if you're just chit-chatting, half the world's going to stay unconnected. AI isn't going to get to the next level that it needs to get to. So when you find those people, when you find those advisors, keep them, respect them. But remember, as a founder in your company, your mission is your mission. And don't let anybody derail you from that. Let them support you, but don't let them derail you.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, great, thank you. Next question. How do you navigate resistance or skepticism around new and emerging technologies?
Yeah. Go for it, go.
Well, we've got these huge balloons. They float. They're called aerostats. They're tied to the ground. They float in between 300 meters and 1,000 meters and go up even higher. But when you talk about balloons, the first thing people say is, oh, Google-loon, that failed, right? And it's like, okay, yes, that was 10 years ago. That didn't fail, but it was too expensive. And then you come to the regulator and you say, look, I've got this flying thing that can give connectivity in rural areas for much cheaper than normal towers. They say, all right, that sounds cool, science fiction. It's like, no, you need to come and see it. So getting past the civil aviation authorities in different countries and emerging markets, working with the regulators in those markets, not having to go out and spend hundreds of millions of dollars just to utilize spectrum, but finding the right partners to be able to borrow that spectrum from so that you can jumpstart. The skepticism is massive for startups. It's usually the bit that breaks the company. But if you can push through that and you can make a name and you give the credibility, and of course the proof is always in the pudding. Talk, talk, talk is great, but eventually you need to deliver something, right? So we found it very, very complex in the beginning to explain what we were doing and show people what we're doing. But when they stood underneath the balloon and they saw something beautiful in the sky and they saw the connectivity was able to be reached much further than anybody had gone before, all of a sudden it's like, wow, why didn't you tell us about this before? It's like, we have been telling you about this. We've been telling you about this for the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. So skepticism is a key part to your development as a company. If you can get over that skepticism, and you can deliver something, all of a sudden skepticism becomes support.
Nicholas, is skepticism in technology something you've had challenges with as well?
Oh yeah, but and in particular in this cooperation with big corporations is something that, in particular in deep tech, as we do, and we have a great marketing team that is able to put our ideas out there and communicate that in a very clear and clean manner. But at the very beginning, nobody believed that we could put fleets of drones and robots out there. And even still today, people don't believe that we are going to make it. When you are talking to some in big corporations, they believe that you are not going to make it. So they are, to be very frank, some are just waiting to see when you are going to die, right? So there is part of that skepticism with some in the industry, but then once you get those first deals signed, once you get these big partnerships announced, then all that, it's about going to all those obstacles down one after the other, right? And you need to go and demonstrate milestone after milestone. But yeah, it's part of technology and deep tech. Once you start scaling it, and in particular what we do, that we get drones flying and you have regulation, you have public acceptance, there's a lot of things to prove, but yeah, we feel it.
Stephen, particularly around new and emerging technologies like AI, have you kind of faced skepticism around those?
Yeah, absolutely, of course. And I think it's any new technology, whether it be AI or whether it was cloud at one point or another or whatever it happens to be, whether it be mobile phones. I remember having one of the first mobile phone, and somebody, when the phone went off in the middle of a restaurant, somebody looked at me and said, "What on earth do you need a telephone for whilst you're traveling around?" So there is a great deal of skepticism. I think there's a few things to think about. First off, if you are about to embark on a journey where you want to raise money and you're going to drive a new technology into the market, you need to look at yourself. It starts with you. Leadership and tenacity, creativity, and persistence is going to be right at the heart of everything that you do. So if you're a leader and you expect to have a great idea, Hamming, one of the greatest inventors, and when I worked at Bell Labs, it was the same sort of thinking, which is you could see the difference between the people in the organization that had a great idea and they thought the idea was going to do all the selling by itself, and it had nothing to do with it. The greatest ideas came to bear because the people that were willing to put the effort in to network the idea through the organization and get that listened to, and they could articulate their theory of value very, very elegantly, very, very precisely, they were the ones that were successful. Very, very big difference in leadership approaches.
Is there anything else that you do to encourage users to embrace and adopt this new technology?
Yeah, involvement. I mean, involvement is the key thing as well. So again, if you don't go after the elephant, as they say, and try and eat the elephant in one go, you've got to be very surgical about your go-to-market at the early stages. And I think there's a truism that for startup leaders that fail in the first sense, they think it was because the idea, the product was the right thing to get to market. And then they go to the second startup and they realize it's actually about the channel. Yeah? So you've got to make sure that you really understand how you're going to get that to market, who you're going to target first, be absolutely surgical and double down on that. Don't go too broad, otherwise you're going to lose people. And then the second bit of that is get them involved and take the earliest and smallest proof of value that you can get. Don't go for the big fish because you never catch it.
Micky, is there anything else that you've done to encourage people to accept the balloons? And is it based around marketing? Is that part of it?
Look, PR has every part to play in every company, but PR is nothing if you don't have a product. PR is nothing if you don't have something that people need to use. So for me, this is all about giving something that people need to use and giving them a solution. That's the opportunity. It's the solution. And not inventing some new magic carpet that flies and is going to cost $100 million to run, but actually has no real use, but it's cool. Most products don't work in that way. So deliver something that actually people need, and often the adoption is there. But like you said, perseverance, right? Articulation, being able to talk about a solution that is needed is where you are, but then actually give somebody in their hands, let them feel it, let them touch it, and that's adoption. That's how it happens.
Nicholas, do you have anything to add?
Well, I think at the end, technology is just one part of the puzzle, and I think that the most important part is how it will be accepted also by the public. And when you are talking about disruptive technology, the technology part is only one small part of the puzzle. And in what we are doing, it's about the change management, it's about the public acceptance, and how this can be translated into the society and the real economy. And this is how it can really have an impact.
Are you confident that over time AI will be accepted widely?
I think it's already being so. I mean, if you look at the massive amount of investments in AI that's already ongoing right now, we're talking about, the analysts are saying that there's going to be GDP growth of 16 to 18 trillion by the end of 2030. So there is more than enough money and there's more than enough inertia. But I do think that being able to articulate the use cases very succinctly, this is what the GSMA Foundry has a massive role to play, because they can look at the individual verticals, whether it be farming, agriculture, or whether it be manufacturing or any part of automotive, for example. Any of those industries have nuanced use cases. So you need to figure out what are the use cases that are going to get early adoption, and then you can build on that, because it's about confidence. Yeah? So if you can build somebody's confidence, you can prove the case out early, and then once they've done that, you build on the trust that you originally established.
Do you turn off spell check on words? No. Are you going to turn off AI when you've used ChatGPT or Watson or a different platform? When it supports you, it helps you grow, it makes you more efficient? The answer is no. Do you want the option? Which is something that we believe in. Privacy is something that I think is an issue with AI. And in the quest to be connected, we've actually given up a lot of our human rights. So there's got to be some middle ground or some protection afforded to the end user, where companies cannot abuse the end user. But I think that it's already here. It really is. I'm actually AI right now.
Yeah. Well, I think that what's very important is that this thinking is happening all across the companies, and in particular the collaboration between big corporations and startups help also translate what is happening in terms of policies and values also into the startup world, that sometimes we just tend to think and go with the flow, and there is some thinking that is needed on how AI can impact society, so that cooperation is also can be helpful into how AI can impact society and the years to come.
Well, I think we're out of time there, so thank you very much to the panel, and thank you so much for listening.